Thank you very much for coming to today's ISDP forum. We have two interesting topics for discussion today. One is transportation cooperation in Northeast Asia. The other one is environmental cooperation in Northeast Asia. As you know, finally, South Korea has now new president. After 3 months vacancy, so there is high expectation for the new president. But I think there are many domestic and foreign issues for the new government. I think especially today's topics, environment and inter-Korean relations are key challenges for the next, the new South Korean government. Moon Jae-in, the new president, is very much interested in cooperation to solve those challenges by regional cooperation. But today we have South Korean two government officers. They will give us more detailed information and their view and also their idea in dealing with those challenges. First speaker, Mr. Kim Namgyun. He is from Ministry of Infrastructure and Transportation.
Land infrastructure and transport.
And he will talk about international transport cooperation. And then the second speaker is Jung. He's from Ministry of Environment. Both are currently our ISDP visiting fellows. And then Jung already stayed for 2 years,
2 years.
and Kim for 1 year. Since the two topics are different, so Kim first will present his half-an-hour presentation, followed by Q&A, and then Jung will do the same. So please, Kim.
Hello, and thank you for coming for my presentation. This presentation is just about the lost opportunity in this Northeast Asian region due to the current conflict overshadowing this area. What I want to say is that there are clearly many chances for the region to work together, even in the face of the seemingly ever-growing mutual hostility. Before I begin, I have to make it clear that I'm here as an individual guest researcher, not as a government official, and so the contents of my presentation does not represent any of my official line of my country of government. Okay, first I will say something about the contents and the structure of my presentation. First, I will address the policy agenda of previous South Korean government, which is called Eurasia Initiative, as a background. And then I will look at the similar attempt that has been presented earlier by various nations and international organizations. Then I will tell you that now, why Korea cannot afford to have such a grand project like Belt and Road of China. And then I will state that what I thought to be the desirable direction for Korean initiative, Korean future initiative. And then I explain the favorable atmosphere for cooperative relation in Northeast Asia. And then I will briefly state the implementation tool for Korean government. And finally, I will sum up the hope and harsh reality of this region by using a real-life example, Najimasan project. First, Eurasian initiative. This is why I was sent here by my government in the first place. As the impeachment of the last year and the new election of yesterday, this policy agenda has become relic of previous government. But I think the basic idea of this initiative is great and should be carried on by new government. And as far as I know, the new president, President Moon, has the same idea to carry on this idea. I mean, basic principle of this idea. So, anyway, the original policy agenda of this is that it consists of three parts. Firstly, it aims to connect transport network of the Eurasian landmass as a what we dubbed as the Silk Road Express, using mostly existing railway network. I mean, the Trans-Siberian Railway, Trans-Mongolian Railway, and Trans-China Railways. And secondly, second is the connection of energy network of the region, and eventually and hopefully Korea will lead the integration of the single Eurasian market. And that was the very grand design and hope of the previous government. Now South Korea is separate from the Asia continent by North Korea. So connecting South Korea to Eurasian landmass is kind of a difficult thing. So in short term, the initiative aimed to make a footing in China or Russia, which is connected to continental network. So, and eventually it aimed to connect inter-Korean network and then to the continental ones. It is declaration for China, Russia, and even to the Central Asian countries that Korea want to cooperate with these countries. It also a tacit unification policy toward North Korea. It is to encourage North Korea to open its economy through cooperation with its close neighbors, I mean China and Russia. And by having a leading role in this cooperation, South Korea wants to regain control over Korean Peninsula issue. I mean, for some months or for some years after the nuclear crisis of the Korean Peninsula, the South Korean government has lost control over their destiny. I mean, U.S. seems to be the sole determinant in this. I mean, the destiny of South Korean people. So we want to regain control over our issues. That is. It also a preparation of reconnecting infrastructure of two countries, two Koreas. I mean. Yeah. Then. As you have already know, reviving old Silk Road has been a long objective of the various nations and international organizations since the fall of Soviet Union. Among the numerous initiatives, I will briefly mention a few of them. First of all, Trans-Sika means International Trans-Corridor Europe, Caucasus, and Asia. It is assisted by European Union in early 19th to connect Central Asian countries to Europe, but it has now this Central Asian country has formed the international organization for their own and have a very systematic lead or meeting schedule. I mean, they have very firm structure of their own. It basically aims to connect Central Asian transport to Trans-European Network, TEN. So in it highly systematically organized with the league of 13 countries. And the next one is CAREC, which stands for Central Asian Regional Economic Cooperation. It is assisted by ADB, which means Asian Development Bank, with China, Mongolia, and Central Asian countries. It includes all regional cooperation is from transport, energy to trade. In transport, it basically invests in 6 main corridors, but unfortunately it's very people say that it's exclusive toward outside the countries. And the United Nations UNSCOP tried to identify and invigorate 6 intermodal corridors throughout Eurasia. Most of the energy is focused on the harmonization of the regulation and documentation, which can be a very serious bottleneck for international logistics. And finally, the famous Belt and Road Initiative of China. It's a really great design, but that by increasing connectivity through Asian countries, try to facilitate trade, cultural exchange, and policy coordination. It consists of land-based Silk Road economic belt and seagoing 21st century maritime Silk Road, which aim to integrate 80% of the global economy. And now I will turn to the limitation to increase connectivity in terms of Korea, South Korea. The previous attempts of the Chaseka or Kare and Belt and Road can be an important lesson for Korea, who wants to set a similar objective or ambition. But at least in short term, Korea does not have such leader to try to connect the whole continent. First of all, the international cooperation of Korea is constantly suffer from setback in the face of geopolitical tension. The logic of the cooperative scheme is by increasing connectivity, aims to create the interdependency of the participant country, thus raising the cost of political conflict and thus preventing war or conflict. But just like this kind of line is basic for the so-called neoliberal school of international politics. But the reality is, just like the closure of Gaesong Industrial Complex last year and the suspension of Najin Hassan project also last year, all those projects faces a political tension after the North Korea's nuclear ambition. So they are very vulnerable to those kind of political actions. So they are supposed to block those kind of escalating political tension, but even in the face of political tension, they just collapse. That is the problem, basic problem. And additionally, South Korea is not as rich as China, or do not have any authority like international organization like ISDP or UNSCOP. So Korea do not have sufficient funds to induce other countries to build infrastructure we need, which we need to connect ourselves to the continent. For recent example, China have invested $1.2 billion to Pakistan for the construction of infrastructure, which will work as a China-Pakistan economic corridor. But on the other hand, Korea's such investment has been only $8.2 billion since its beginning in 1987. So there is no comparison. So even China has established Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank (AIIB), which can be used to allocate funds to the construction of the project favorable to them. And let alone transport cooperation with Central Asia. We do not even have any direct connection to China, thanks to North Korean neighbor. So now we have to look at the future direction for Korean initiatives. The future Korean initiatives should be different from China's or other international organizations. First of all, it should be more market-oriented. Even though we want to build some kind of a land bridge connecting to the continent, with the falling prices falling price of maritime transport driven by falling oil price, international oil price. So no one can sure that the owner of the goods will prefer the newly connected land line in comparison to the good old maritime transport. So, and the government do not know whether there are enough demand for those kind of transport. And additionally, with the advance of technology, new technology like 3D printing, massive intercontinental transport of goods, which have been made China as the factory of the world, maybe become obsolete. So the government needs to be a supporter of the private enterprises who wants to have opportunity in the continent. In a similar vein, government's role should be a facilitator who smooth out the difficulty arising from passing of the national border. For example, these are some kind of a list of the regulations to be harmonized or sorted out before any viable international freight forwarding through railway can be possible. The most obvious one is the gauge of the track. South Korea and China and most of the Western European country has what is called standard gauge, which is 1,435 millimeter. But Russia, which we have to use it anyway before we connect the whole continent, they have the broader gauge, which is 1,520 millimeters. So we have to figure out how to deal with that. The most obvious way is to change the freight car, or come up with a technological solution like an interchangeable gauge system, gauge wheel. So, and another thing is that rolling stock exchange and lease. Suppose that we are doing trade with the Russia, then most of South Korean exports are household appliance, and imports from Russia will be very crude oil or very raw materials. They need for export. We need to we have to send the container cars, but instead of the container car, we have to import by boat, which is very different kind of rolling stock. But so then how can we deal with those kind of discrepancy between the cars that are used in this situation? We have to deal with that before we really can start the international trade through international railway. And there's also consideration for the geopolitics. With every border crossing, we need to deal with the difficulty which I have mentioned earlier before this slide. So the easiest way is to transport goods from using TSR, which consists of basically just one country. So there's no problem with the border crossing. But the problem is that relying heavily on TSR increases dependency on Russia. Unfortunately, Russia happens to have a bad track record of making good use of such influence, like threatening to block gas supply through Ukraine when it needs to persuade European countries. And in Russia's point of view, it's very natural to use what it has, but the neighbors or the customer can suffer a lot. But there is a very good opportunity for Korea also. It's not not all the environment is hostile for Korean success. So this is one of them, such as so-called pivot to Asia in Russia of the Russian government. In Korea, it's broadly known as the New Eastern policy of the Putin administration, but basically it's the strategic move toward Northeast Asia to correct economic inclination to Western Europe and to pursue balanced development of its nation. It started as an energy strategy to import Siberian natural gas to export to Siberian natural gas to China, Japan, and Korea. But it also has significant transport projects like Vladivostok Free Harbor project and Primoye routes. I will explain. This one is called Primoye 1 and this is Primoye 2. Primoye 1 is the connection of the Chinese territorial Harbin and Chiltonhai to Russian Woosuk all the way to Vladivostok. It's a link between Trans-Manchurian Railway with the Trans-Siberian Railway starting from Vladivostok. So the Russian government wants to streamline the administrative procedure and enlarge capacity of border railway station and have been doing much investment for that. And the Primoye 2 is connecting Chinese Chengdu, Jilin, and Hunchun to port of Zarubino and Poshet of Russia. Just it's like linking. It is to link the Chinese Changchun Jilin Industrial Innovation Zone to the international harbor, which connects to the Korea or Japan or all the way to Pacific. So, I mean, this kind of policy it has a big meaning for not only to Russia but also to the whole region. This project means that turning Vladivostok area from a terminal for Trans-Siberian Railway all the way to global transit center handling the Chinese northeastern province, right from the best industrial region of the northeast China. So it also creates the alternative transit corridor using Manchurian Railway connecting to Trans-Siberian Railway. And this Trans-Manchurian Railway goes all the way to Chita, which is the very important station of the Trans-Siberian Railway network. So that has, from Vladivostok, Trans-Siberian Railway goes all the way like this, but this way, by developing this line, we can have another transit route. This is what I have been explaining about. And the other opportunity for Korea is the China's Belt and Road. It's such a grand strategy with so many projects and cooperative area. But the immediate concern for Korea lies in the Chinese, China, Mongolia, and Russian corridor of this initiative. The most important thing, for my opinion, is that the development of this northeastern region. That was originally the development plan of this 3 provinces initiative, but it eventually turned into national agenda of the China. So it's one of the strategy is this way. I don't know how to read this in Chinese words. It's basically borrowing harbor or port to go to advance to the sea. I mean, so it's using Russia's or North Korea's harbor for domestic transport of the landlocked Chinese northeastern province. They say that the using land line all the way to the southern part of the China has very costly, and this maritime route can be more profitable and efficient. And so along this line, the newly opened the new Tuman Bridge linking Chinese Hunchun and North Korea's Wonjeongri can be used as a viable route for this kind of strategy. And it's said that this Wonjeongri area can be used as a duty-free trade area for China and North Korea. So if the countries can maximize this chance, they can use the chance, the border area of China, Russia and North Korea can turn into economic hub of the entire region. So that should be the goal of the Korean initiative looks like. So we have to connect this railway and road network all the way through North Korea, and I mean from Seoul to Sinuiju to Daejeon in western part, and Seoul, Wonsan, and Najin, and all the way to Vladivostok, which can connect to the Trans-Manchurian or Trans-Siberian Railway. So, and there could be some kind of a intercity cooperation in using this kind of region, starting by joint development of Najin and Hunchun area, which is this area. And this area we can start from this area. I mean, as I explained in earlier slide, it's the logistics, energy, and light industry are viable option for here. Currently, South Korea's company POSCO Hyundai as a consortium, they are operating logistics complex in Hunchun. So this is very viable option for us. And now it's important. Now it is the implementation tool Korean government. With Korean government proposal in ASEM, there in 2014, the Eurasian expert group meeting is held once a year to discuss the infrastructure, regulation, and finance for the European transport network, Eurasian transport network. It consists of experts from the ASEM member countries and international organizations. This kind of this kind of expert meeting should work as a platform to discuss the regulation and technical standards. I mean, for this, it might be helpful to include private enterprise to really participate in this kind of expert group meeting to identify and really discuss the real problem arising from real business. And there's also can be the regular transport ministers meeting. Now, Korea, China, and Russia all held bilateral transport minister level meeting. Now we have to turn this bilateral meeting to regular three-party transport minister meeting. I mean, we have China and Russia and Korea all should meet together in the same meeting. So, and the last tool is the GTI. It's a Greater Truman Initiative. It's intergovernmental cooperation mechanism supported by United Nations Development Program. It deals with the 6th area, which includes transport. And the member countries China, Russia, Mongolia, and South Korea. It usually conducts feasibility study for the international cooperative project. So it can also conduct feasibility study for the development of the Hunchun area. I mean, the border between North Korea, China, and Russia. And North Korea was a former member, which in now 2009 they get out of this cooperative mechanism, but they can. I think we can bring them back if the situation gets better. So if with the North Korea in place, it can eventually become the platform for the development plan of the region. And this finally, I will want to highlight the great opportunity for the mutual prosperity in this region, and also the vulnerability and difficulty facing every country in this region by using the real Namgyun Hassan project, which has been indefinitely suspended by last year. It could have become the seed for further cooperation of the country. I mean, this was a small but crucial step toward brighter future of the region. It's not dead yet, but it's suspended thanks to the political tension arising from North Korea's nuclear test. The overview, I mean, this project is simple, but Hassan is the real terminal of the Trans-Siberian Railway network. So it's basically renovating the obsolete railway from Hassan to Namgyun. In North Korean, it is Rajin, R-A-J-I-N, but because I'm not South Korean, I use Namgyun. And construct a new terminal on the harbor. It has been completed in 2013. So that after this construction, they transport Russian coal from excavated from Siberia and goes to Namgyun by rail. And then using Chinese ship, they transport this coal to South Korea, Pohang. And this coal is coal called coks, which has been used for smelting of the metal. So it's involved in 3 countries, and with the genius wording by Russian side, it has been avoided sanction of the Security Council resolution. So it was possible even in the face of the Security Council resolution of the last year. The structure of this project was that with the Russia and North Korea investment, they established Rason Contrans, and then South Korean consortium of Korea, which is Korean Railway, and POSCO, which is steel industry, and Hyundai, which is shipping industry, then buy the 49% of Russia's share of this company. So they have conducted, South Korea and Russia signed MOU for the joint project on summit meeting in 2013. So it seemed to be very bright future with the and the Korean consortium conducted 3 test operations for feasibility study from 2015, but the North Korea's nuclear test ruined all. So after nuclear test, South Korean government unilaterally suspended this project. I mean, what I want to say is that this looks really perfect for the regional cooperation. It involves every country with the very prospective region, and it can, with using this North Korean harbor for trade with the South Korea, they have the opportunity to open North Korea's economy for real. But this good chance has been evaporized. Not completely dead, but it's very suspended indefinitely because of the mounting political tension, especially in South Korea. I mean, the hostility toward North Korea. So there are abundant of chance, but it's very hard to materialize it. And that is the sad reality. That is all. Thank you.
If you have any question, just directly ask people. Please.
Okay, hello, I'm from Georgia Embassy. If it's possible to go, let's say, fifth topic where the map is more clear. No, 5.
5.
Next, before. So first one. Oh, it's better. Well, it's not better. That's more wide. So, I'm Georgia. So, what we propose, of course, we are not against any routes, any connections, but now we are working to improve our, let's say, we call it the New Silk Road plan. From China, and you see there is a Trans-China Railway road,
Yeah.
yes, which goes through the Central Asian
Yeah.
states, then to Caspian Sea,
Yes.
then Azerbaijan, Georgia,
Yeah.
Black Sea, and then it's over. In particular, for example, if we speak about today's relations, now Ukraine is not going to send or to take any goods from Russia. So they are probably using this route which I have mentioned. And Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey itself, Greece, and the southern Mediterranean. It's absolutely free from the Black Sea. So just my proposal, because anyway, this project is working. Because Chinese, we have a free trade agreement with China from, let's say, last year, and they sent a so-called test train, which took around 12 days to reach the Spain. So I just am making proposal for you to think about this project as well. Because anyway, it will work. And for the southern part, which I have counted just now, the shortest one.
I totally understand what you have said, and we have 2 years ago, Korea has conducted some kind of research in our own, and they have identified several routes which we can bring us to this western end of the Russian continent. I mean, in those areas, we didn't just use this kind of Trans-Siberia or Trans-Chinese railway. We also conducted research on this.
Yeah,
Just like you have mentioned, but for the short term, for my research here, I want to just focus on this area. So,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
But so to ask about a completely different route, or on the other side of Russia, could you expand a little bit about the polar routes and the feasibility of the polar route connecting South Korea to Northern Europe or all of Europe? Is this something that will happen in the next 10 years, 20 years, depending on the speed of climate change or the effects of climate change?
Yes, well, a lot of research has been going on in Korea and Japan and also in Russia about this North Pole route. So, it's, as you have mentioned, it's kind of a contingent to the global warming. But the thing is that there is also Ministry of Maritime Affairs in Korea, so I'm not quite sure about this kind of maritime routes. I'm sorry for that. But as far as I know, they are doing the researchers and they have even made attempt to this ice-breaking ships to facilitate this North Pole route.
But could you expand a bit on the North Korean view of all these projects? Are they all for it, or are they being a stumbling block?
Basically, they want to develop this Najin area. They have designated it as a special economic zone, just like this southern Sinŭiju with the Nantong area. And so they want to develop this Najin area. And so that is the reason why they made a contract with the Russian railway, which will enable the immense of the Najin Hassan project. That is what they want. That's really what they want. So even with this sanction and this conflict, they are doing in this area. They are doing very viable tourist industry using advertising that they can. If you sign up this contract, you can travel all the way from Russia, North Korea, and China in an hour. They are advertising that, then, and they are very. I heard that those kind of tourism industry is very lucrative in the area. So there is no reason for North Korea to avoid contact using this Najin area. So.
I have one question. During the Sunshine era, the Jung government actually promoted a number of Korean projects, and then they made a quite big progress, especially when it comes to Kaesong's complex and the Kumgang Mountain tourist project. And then I know this interconnection with the Korean railway project was also made their interest during the Sunshine policy. But why they didn't make big progress on this? Because as I know, they tried to connect from some part to some part, but it was not successfully fully connected.
Yeah. Well, that's because out of the suspicion of the intent of the other side. I mean, they didn't trust each other. Let's say that this line is going along this South Korea's and Korea's eastern borderline, eastern sea line. In 2007, they connected the road and railway along this coastline, which was very well advertised as a sign of peace agreement between two Korea. It was highly praised, but the problem is that the railway between penetrating the border has been completed, but this railway is not connected to anywhere else. I mean, in North Korea, the terminal station does not go. There is no railway, and in southern part in South Korea is also the story. I mean, so they basically didn't trust each other. So I think even with this new administration in place in South Korea, it will be very hard to do this kind of cooperation along the borderline with North and South Korea. So, this region, the border with the Russia and China, which has been the traditional ally of the North Korea, I think the North Korea will feel more comfortable with opening the border. So, yeah.
Okay. So distrust is
Yeah.
obstacles of the cooperation. Okay, then any other question? Then we close the first presentation. Thank
Thank you very much for your very interesting.
As I introduced, my name is Woosuk, Jung. I'm from Ministry of Environment in South Korea. Very thank you for coming and very thank you for having have this opportunity. Today, my topic is chemical management policy, EU and Northeast Asia. This is about how to secure the safety of chemicals. This has nothing to do with the chemical weapons, which is nowadays very hard topic. Don't disappoint. Let's start. In this picture, can you see? In this picture, I just want to tell you, we are living together with many chemicals. The toys, textile, medicine, pesticide, the construction material. You might have used the soap, shampoo, or cosmetic in the morning. You packed your lunch in the plastic container today. We are exposed to the many chemical substances in daily life. Chemical substances come from the raw materials such as oil or metal ore, or even from the animals and plants. They go to refinery or the chemical reaction to become chemical substance. And they can be feedstock of consumer product. The end of their life will be disposed as a waste or waste water. This is the life cycle of chemical substance. There are 120 billion chemical substances in the world. Among them, 300,000 chemicals is commercially used. Every year, 2,000 chemical substances synthesized as a drug or new material. And in this part, I want to explain most of chemical has the two phases. On the one phase, they are very good. They bring very abundant convenience to human beings. On the other phase, they are very dangerous and they are toxic to our health and to the environment. For example, DDT. You know DDT? Yeah, DDT is a very famous chemical. It is called miracle chemical because it had contributed to get rid of malaria in Europe and North America. But it was revealed it also had the adverse effect to the environment and human beings. It had been banned globally since 2004 thanks to Stockholm Convention. So oxygen is indispensable element for living creatures, but in high concentration is very explosive as a neutron bomb. I visited the site, the explosion of oxygen. Many people were dead. From now on, the scary pictures. And then actually my conclusion is here. is very difficult for you. This part is my conclusion. But I feel my presentation is a rather picture to make you interesting. I want to 4 types of chemical accident. First case is the damage by chemical itself, direct damage. You know, Tianjin explosion in August 2015. There was a series of explosions in Tianjin Harbor Port in 2015, in which 173 people died. Among them, 100 people were firefighters. The causing material was the ammonium nitrate, which is mainly used for agricultural fertilizer. Isn't it surprising? Because the agricultural material could be as powerful as a nuclear bomb. You can see the power of the chemical material in the left picture. And the right picture, the residential area is not far from the explosion site. That is the big problem. The inhabitant didn't know how hazardous chemical had been stored in their neighborhood. Even firefighter didn't know. Even authority of China didn't know. The next case is the humidifier disinfectant. The case is the incident by consumer product. Consumer product could be very dangerous to us. Since mid-2000s, many women and children had died from unknown lung disease in South Korea. Many experts and doctors had tried to find the origin of the disease, but they failed because they only sought the origin from pathogen or viruses. They never suspected chemical can be the method, the disaster. 116 people died. Most of them were pregnant women and children. You can see in this picture, you can see the humidifier and the humidifier disinfectant. These are humidifier disinfectant. That is only used in South Korea. That is only used in South Korea. Just adding some drops of the disinfectant keep humidifier clean and germ-free. But when it is inhaled, the lung is damaged. And then in this picture, you can see a boy who has to wear for his whole life the breathing equipment. He has to live in these pictures. Next case is the boomerang effect of chemicals. You may know Minamata disease in Japan. Minamata disease is caused by mercury, one of the very poisonous heavy metal. More than 1,700 people were dead. The mercury was released into the Minamata Bay, but it returned to our human beings through food chain. Many people suffered from the Minamata disease. the first case, the last case is the thalidomide incident. I want to describe the effect of a chemical over a generation. Thalidomide was developed by a German drug company. It was sold for pregnant women as a node killer. Since it was over-the-counter drug, many pregnant women took the pill a lot. More than 10,000 children were affected. Only 15% of them survived. In Brazil, this drug is still sold. So far, I looked into the 4 types of chemical incident. Chemicals are, I just want to emphasize, chemicals are in some part very dangerous, and then when controlled, well controlled. The policy strategy to secure safety of chemicals have 3 tiers: chemical staging and article staging and the market stage. Most important part is regulation in the chemical stage. In the chemical stage, it is important to identify hazardous chemicals and then control manufacture, import, or use of chemical. In the article state, there are many regulations. There are a lot of laws regulating the types of articles. In case of Europe, there are many regulations on cosmetic products, food contact material, the biocidal product, toy theft directive, ROHS. It is concerning the electronic devices. In the market stage, monitoring and offering correct information to the consumer is very important policy. In this regard, Korea's humidifier disinfectant incident have 3 problems. In chemical status, manufacturer of the chemical which was used in humidifier disinfectant didn't report all the possible risks. They skipped the toxicity when it was inhaled. They just reported thermal contact or when it, they didn't report it. And then the manufacturer first reported it would be used for the carpet washing agent, detergent. But in 6 years later, it started to be used for humidifier disinfectant. There is no legal duty for manufacturer to report the change. That is a very big problem. In article status, humidifier disinfectant was neither medical product nor pesticide. What is that? What can be classified in the certain product group? Another example is many people nowadays have tattoo. Tattoo pigment is the paint or cosmetic. What is that? There are many chemical products. It's very difficult to draw a line where the products are included. And the market status, no market monitoring has existed. So, early detection of hazardous property of humidifier disinfectant was impossible. So nowadays, Korea revised our chemical management system following EU's REACH. I want to explain how chemical is controlled or managed by regulation. EU regulation, REACH, the regulation name is REACH, controlled all the parts with one regulation. The REACH is the registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals. Very difficult. Registration is the important part. The registration is conducted by manufacturer or importer. Any manufacturer or importer of chemicals should register their chemicals information to the authorities. The information includes the toxicity data and where the chemical would be used and the risk the chemical can pose. Then after registration, manufacturer and importer can do their business. Okay? And then authorities started to evaluating. During the evaluation, the authority assessed the chemical or whether chemical can be controllable, and then whether the chemical pose risk or not. If the risk cannot be controllable, the chemical can be designated as an authorization substance. Once a chemical substance is designated as an authorization substance, any manufacturer, importer, and user of that chemical should apply for authorization. And then, if application for authorization is submitted, then authorities assess whether benefit outweigh the risk. If benefit outweigh risk, then the authorization will be granted. If not, the use or manufacture or import of the chemical can be banned. This system is well organized, but actually it is very complicated. Now, I simplified the process of the regulation, but it's very difficult. EU's policy becomes a benchmark for many other countries, especially Northeast Asian countries follow EU's experience, but many differences exist. Then it looks like very difficult effort, and that is the result of a comparison of each country's regulation. It's all a little bit difficult. The acronym CSG is Chemical Substance Controller in Japan. Then FCP, the acronym number 6, is Food Contact Product. In this table, I just want to explain that EU and Korea system cover the chemical status and cover where the chemical is used. So EU and Korea's system can control the use of chemical, but China and Japan's system don't have the use control system. Another thing is the EU system has some problem because in EU, if registration is finished, manufacturer or importer of a chemical can do their business, even though evaluation for the chemical has not been finished. On the contrast, in China and Japan, if evaluation has been finished, and then the manufacturer or importer do their business. Differences. But one problem is in EU, evaluation takes 11 months. It is a little bit long period. During that period, very hazardous chemical can be circulated in the market. That's a big problem. I make some comparison about the strong point and shortcomings. Most of the EU system is EU system is the best, but each country has their own situation and their own industrial structure. So, in case of EU, the EU's REACH have the system in which manufacturer or importer have to verify their chemicals are safe. China, Japan, and Korea in Eastern Asia, in the regulation system, government have a lot more role in to secure the safety of chemicals. The EU system is so complicated and for the companies very onerous. Then I just want to show another concern, new challenges. You know endocrine disruptor? Do you know endocrine disruptor? Another name of endocrine disruptor is environmental hormone. It has a critical impact to fetus or children during developmental stage. You know, endocrine system govern our body's development, especially in the young period. It is very ubiquitous material in our everyday life. You know in the receipt, the BPA, the most famous endocrine disruptor is nowadays BPA. The BPA is included in receipt. The European Union last year passed the ban on using BPA in the receipt from 2019. You may see many water bottles in the supermarket with the label BPA free, but they may have very similar material, BPF or BPC, which are very similar material, which have very similar effects with BPA. BPA is also used in the canned food. Yeah. I think we are exposed to BPA every day, I think. Another concern is nanomaterial. Nanomaterial is very small material its size is 1 nanometer to 100 nanometer. It is so small to penetrate into our body very well. Then it acts differently from the traditional chemical materials. It disrupts our body's system, and then it is a very big concern nowadays. European Union is trying to how to regulate the nanomaterial. As I know, Australian government already launched a regulation on banning the nanomaterial, regulating nanomaterial. In this regard, I make some suggestions for each government. These suggestions are subject to all the governments, each country's government. We should establish a preemptive strategy for vulnerable people, such as kids. Kids are very vulnerable to the chemical substances because they are in developing stage. Okay? If they get a strange chemical inside their body can be dysfunction. Their body can dysfunction. Another thing is a small volume chemical should even be registered while applied, reduce the responsibility. This means European Union and many countries, except China, applied the regulation for just over 1 ton per year chemical substance in volume. But even though it is a small volume, it can be harmful to our body. For example, you can see this earring. This earring has lead, which is very toxic heavy metal. It is imported to European Union, but it is already circulated because it had been imported very small amount. So I think a small volume, even though chemical with a small volume have to be regulated, I think. Cooperation is very important part in chemical management policy. There are rather existing chemicals. I already told you there are 300,000 chemical substances commercially used. But we don't know much about the toxic information. So each countries have applied their own regulation and then tested the chemicals by itself. But if we make cooperation in that area, we can share toxicity data, and then we can apply regulation in same level, I think. Another suggestion is strengthening. We have to strengthen to offer information to the consumer, because the consumer have to know what hazardous chemical is included in their product they are purchased. The one good example is the smartphone ad. To smartphone ad, I visited a toy store and then I checked a toy, how the label is written. Maybe I think this is chemical lamps, the chemical lamps made of the toy. But maybe I think most of consumers don't know what the chemical is. So that's why I argue that developing smartphone app is a good way to provide the information, correct information to the consumer. Yeah, I prepared this, and then maybe I think when I go back in July, I will work with this product to improve our South Korea's chemical management system. Thank you for listening.
It was very interesting presentation. Also, I think it's very useful information for our daily life. If you have any, yes.
Yes, one quick question. When it comes to greenhouse gases, there are certain countries are more active than others. When it comes to these chemical products, there must be some bad guys and some good guys when it comes to nations. And you didn't mention the United States. Where does the United States fit in? Are they good regulators, or are they? And what is the tendency? Are they with the Trump administrations? Are they going in the wrong direction?
Oh, you know, in Kyoto Protocol, United States didn't attend the Kyoto Protocol, and but the Obama administration trying to join the international effort to reduce greenhouse gases, but the Trump administration rolled back the previous progress.
Yeah.
So maybe I think in terms of the chemical management system, America's system is left behind the European system. They tried to, the many policy report made by Parliament, but draft of the new regulation for better management of chemical couldn't pass the Parliament.
I wanted to ask about the international trade impact of these chemical management systems. So you were talking about the Dutch government filing a warning about products from China. Does that sort of lead to a decrease in the consumption of Chinese goods? Can we see trends like this? Is there a larger impact that would incentivize states like China or South Korea or whomever to increase their standards?
When EU first launched the REACH system, one of their intention is to protect EU's chemical industry and EU's manufacturing industry. But I think REACH maybe so far doesn't work well, because I show you many of the consumer products and chemicals imported from China. So China is the chemical industry. In chemical industry, China is ranked at the top. Yeah. Maybe I think is it good answer?
Yeah, so there's simply no alternative to China because it's so such a
Yeah,
large
yeah,
producer,
yeah,
such a
yeah,
large.
Yeah, EU try to. One of another purpose of the REACH system is to replace the hazardous chemical with the non-hazardous one, or find the alternative way to use chemical. Okay, so maybe I think it passed 10 years since it has passed 10 years since the EU launched the REACH system. So far, that it is the beginning stage. So far, it's the beginning stage. At the end of next month, the small businesses will register in EU. Okay, so it is so early to assess the influence of the REACH system.
Thank you.
No, I think one connected question, I guess, is when China did before, these standards, are they for production or actually for consumption? Because what China did before was to have the A-grade products, sell it in Europe. The second-rate products, they sold it in China because the standards were lower.
Yeah.
And then the low-grade products, who was dangerous and more flawed, they sold it to Africa, Central Asia, because the standards were virtually non-existent. So is this something as well? I mean, if you look at this, is this a standard for production, or is this a standard for when you sell it? Because you still can use dangerous chemicals if you export to a country which have no very low standards. I don't know, because this was at least in the early 90s, Central Asia was flooded with dangerous products
Oh, really?
because they didn't have a choice.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, nowadays the product are sold in everywhere. In one country, maybe I think one product, one producer make their product to sell over the world. Maybe I think, but it is very strange because the Central Asia doesn't apply the very strict rule, while EU apply very strict rule. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But that's why
But does everybody do that, or do you have people who use this to low standards and maybe use flawed material or more dangerous material for certain markets?
maybe I think you mean the exporter of the provision to the.
Well, the exporter might you utilize,
Yeah.
make a few extra bucks.
In the future, maybe I think the international convention how to control the chemical substance should be launched globally.
One argument you often hear about EU regulation is that a state that already had quite a high level of regulation then drops down to the EU level if it's lower. So I mean, for instance, in Sweden, like ecological foods are really high standard, higher than the EU standard. Now, with this REACH system, is that a higher standard or like a lower standard than what would be normally expected in like a state like Sweden? Does that make sense? So like, is REACH a better regulation than what Sweden would have had if it didn't join the EU?
Maybe
As like an individual state.
Okay. You mean the regulation applied to all the EU, right?
Yeah.
Directive is the recommendation or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I think the UK doesn't follow some EU directive because it is not mandatory. But regulation is mandatory. Yeah. Okay. But Sweden applied their own law, except to REACH. One example is Sweden decided not to use BPA in the pipe carrying the tap water. It is stricter than the EU level.
Right, yeah, thanks.
Each country have their own
Yeah.
rule, own law, which is more stricter.
In South Korean's Cambridge regulation system, cosmetic products are not included in the regulation items. Cosmetic products.
Would you say that again? Would you say again?
In South Korea's Cambridge regulation system,
Yeah.
cosmetic products are not included in the regulation items, right? And
That's
I think that in recent years, cosmetic industries in Korea has been exploded, and then so-called K-beauty has been spreading to like China or Japan or even in the EU. And then is there any movement to include this cosmetic products into K-beauty?
Carriage, okay. Yeah, the Korea's beauty products are not governed by Cambridge. It's a little different from the. I skipped the explanation of that part. The EU applied the regulation into the regulation for the cosmetic, the ingredient of cosmetic, not cosmetic, ingredient of cosmetic. Yeah, Korea.
But is there a move to
Yeah.
include cosmetics in K-REACH? Is there a move to change K-REACH to include cosmetic standards?
I don't understand what you mean.
Like for example, the government tried to include this ingredients of cosmetics into this Cambridge regulation items.
Are they trying to broaden it to include?
Yeah, maybe I think it's a very big problem. When I get back, I try to. Nowadays, it is excluded. You know, South Korean companies are very enthusiastic not to launch new systems, and they already sell their product to EU, which will be applied in EU regulation, but they don't want the product which will be sold in Korea not applied the strict regulation. Maybe I think. Yeah, so many NGO criticize that.
In your suggestion, the cooperation you mentioned is very important.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the Northeast Asia, do you have any practical example of regional cooperation countries in dealing with this chemical cooperation?
Yeah, maybe I think in South Korea, there have been some chemical incidents related to the chemical imported from China. In 2012, in 2012, there was a big chemical disaster in Gumi area because of the liquor, the very hazardous gaseous material. So South Korean government is trying to make a cooperation in that part with China as well as Japan. But so far, I think it hasn't made big progress, I think.
Okay, now I'm closing our forum today. Thank you very much for coming today, and
give